To start, thank you for moving more toward the middle, which is great. Let me see, do we have is the live stream ready? Are you good? Okay, well, good afternoon. Thank you all for being with us today. My name is Tom Griscom. I am on the governing board of the Board of Regents, and I chaired this committee here at Northeast State Community College. So Dr. Flora has seen me once before, and she wants to make sure I don't ask her the same questions I asked before, and I promised her that I would not. But we're glad you're here. When you have a question, we've got microphones. Please identify yourself by name and what's your affiliation with Northeast State. If you're a community member, faculty, staff, student, whatever, just that way, so that Dr. Flora has an idea of who you are, and it makes it more of a conversation. We are live streaming this. It will be recorded, so if you want to go back and look at it again, you'll be able to do that. And there will be a survey posted where for us on the Board of Regents and for Chancellor Tidings, really would like to get your input. And if you'll go online, you'll find a link, and I'll tell you more at the end of how to do this. But we really would like for you to share with us your comments, and I think that Dr. Flora would appreciate having that as well. So with that, welcome. We are glad that you are here. This is Dr. Bethany Flora. She's Associate Director of the Center for Community College Leadership at East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, Tennessee. So as we start, I'll go with the first question, and it's this. Why do you want to be president of Northeast State Community College?
Well, I want to thank Tom and the search committee and the campus for being such hospitable host. It's been a wonderful day. It's been a wonderful process. So thank you so much. And I also want to introduce my mom and my stepdad, Linda and Phil Crane, and my daughter, Faith, who is actually a Tennessee Promise student here at Northeast State and has had a remarkable experience. So thank them for being here. So I want to start with Tennessee. I study higher education. It's my petri dish. And if you don't know, Tennessee is the leading state in the nation for higher education policy. And so at the community college level, with Drive to 55, with Tennessee Promise, with Tennessee Reconnect, we really are breaking ground as a nation, and Tennessee is the state to watch. And the community college system is actually the one that is being challenged to deliver more than any other unit, if you think about a higher education units in the state. So Tennessee attracts me, the community college system attracts me, but Northeast State is where I grew up. I've told everyone along the way, including the search committee, I'm not interested in being just any community college president. I'm not going to do that, but I am very interested in being Northeast State's president. You all have been through a lot, and I know you've been through a lot, and you've really turned it around, and I'm impressed with the way you've turned it around, and I want to be part of the family to help you do that. So that's why I applied. I was nominated by Dr. Jane Honeycutt. She's got a wealth of experience here. I know she's highly respected here. She and I worked together, and it was such an honor just to be nominated and to make it to this place. So there you go.
Thank you. Who's got the first question? Just hold up your hand. Who wants to ask? And members of the search committee who are here, you can ask questions as well if you want to, even though you've had a couple of times to do it before. Who's got a question? Right over here. We're going to bring you a mic.
Question would be, what do you see as the future for Northeast State going forward in this community?
A great question, and today we've talked a lot, Bob, about regionalism in this area and the economic footprint of this area and how important it is for Northeast State to be at the table with Ballad Health, with East Tennessee State, with some of the privates in the area. Northeast State is really linked directly to economic development and workforce development. We can move with the most alacrity in many regards with our programs and services here at Northeast State. So I see the future in economic development for Northeast State as far as being at the table in these regional discussions about creating a larger economic footprint. And then changing the indicators. We all know it's no news that the health, wellness, and education indicators for this part of the state, this part of the region, is lacking other areas. And so being at the table in those conversations too about our population and the population we serve and moving the needle on those indicators.
Next question. Well, I've seen some of these. These you are not shy people. So right over here. Thank you, Mayor. We'll bring you a mic.
Hi, thanks for being here. My question, I'll kind of piggyback off of what this gentleman said. I'm the Carter County Mayor in Carter County, so we've got one of the facilities over there, and we're very excited to have it. It's been great for our community. What do you see from your point of expanding or for Carter County?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I was asked earlier about off-campus sites, expansion opportunities there. I am not in a position today to say we're going to do this, we're going to take this program here, but I would certainly study that. I know our enrollment needs will need to be met by adult learners. We want to increase our adult learner population, and I am a passionate advocate for off-campus sites to do that. My background, my research was in higher education centers. I believe in using off-campus models to deliver educational options to working adults in particular. So I could see growth in that area, but again, I haven't studied what's going on. I don't know exactly the enrollment patterns. I would ask to see that information, and I'd also want to know what the region needs. What does Carter County need? What are some of the programs that Carter County feels like are needed for the future growth of Carter County? So those are the kinds of conversations I would want to have first before standing up here to say, yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this. But I am a supporter of off-campus education and would continue that support if I were in this role.
So can I add?
We're very excited. We're very excited about having it there, and we want to continue to grow because just whatever y'all can do to help, we're excited about it. So thank you.
Good. Thanks.
So Dr. Flora, let me build off of his question and say, what do you see the relationship between Northeast State Community College and the TCATs that are here as well? Because that's another linkage that's out there that would be interested in how you see that that working out if you're president here.
Oh yeah, and it's very exciting. I talked to the cabinet earlier about the TCAT Morristown transfer. Are you all familiar? You're shaking your heads with the articulation between counting clock hours to credit hours and the articulation between the TCAT Morristown and what we're doing here at Northeast State. That's a model in the state. So that's one of the first models for a clock hour to credit hour transfer. And those of you in the academic side of the house know that that's no easy thing to do with SACs or affirmation for accreditation. And so that is a model that I could see being replicated. And not just, as I understand it, it's not just the Morristown, but there are other TCATs in the state that program, their programs feed into ours here. So it could be a statewide TCAT to community college transfer program. So I think there's a lot of untapped opportunities to do more with our TCATs and to build on those credentials into associates and associate's degrees.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. Let's bring you a mic. We may.
Thank you for being here. And my name is Louise Dixon, and I'm faculty at Northeast State. And I have two questions. One would be that the president of the college is the face of the college, is the face of the college to the community and to all the people that support Northeast State. So my first question would be, how do you feel about being the face of the college? And what do you see that your role would be with that? Would you be comfortable with that? And my second question is that in all situations, there's a good old boy background. And I wanted to know how, and the good old boys change, but I would like to know how you would work with the good old boys and the people that have a background with Northeast State.
Okay. Being the face of the college, that's a real honor. It's a real responsibility too, Louise. You know, people in the community will look to me to represent the college well. So have the highest integrity, have the highest, moral compass that I would need to have, I think. So it would be a tremendous responsibility and a tremendous honor. I've been the face before when I worked for Radford University at the Higher Education Center in Abingdon. I was the face of Radford in Abingdon. When I was recruiting for Radford, I was the face of Radford all over the country when I would go to undergraduate institutions and recruit students. So I'm accustomed to being the face. It's a face that only my mom would love. So no, I'm joking. And I won't, we're being recorded, so I won't say what my mother said when she found out I was interviewing for this job. She was really surprised. So she was giving me a little bit of a hard time about as a kid, that the kid running through cow piles barefoot was actually interviewing for a presidency. So I can tease my mom a little bit about that. So being the face would be a tremendous responsibility, but an honor. And I am familiar because I train presidents and vice presidents in the Institute, and I know how important it is to walk with integrity and to be a person of upstanding integrity, because you do represent the college. The Good Old Boy Network, I worked in manufacturing. It's a male-dominated industry. I was an RA at UVA-Wise in the male athlete dorm. I had 5 females and all the rest were male football players. I'm comfortable working with men. I sound like Pollyanna, but I really don't know the Good Old Boy Network. I feel like merit is important in this region. I feel like we are a culture of honor and that merit is valued. So I would sit at the table with whoever they are and be part of the team. I have no concerns about any kinds of issues there.
So while we're waiting for the next one, there are comments up here about wanting a president that can prioritize. Mm-hmm. Why don't you share with us, how do you set priorities? What's important to you? How do you evaluate it? Who do you listen to in setting those?
Good question. I listen first, and I want to know what the priorities are of the campus community. But we all know students are the reason we're here. So I'm going to be laser focused on the students and student success, and that should be all of our priorities. Excellence in program and services, that's another priority of mine. So a broad-based student success, excellence in programs and services, and institutional health. And that includes climate, culture and climate, morale. It includes the fiscal health of the institution. It includes the health of the institution and the way we reach the community. So those are overarching priorities, but strategic goals and objectives need to be, we would need to develop those together. So I think enrollment is something we need to have some serious conversations about. We know that the high school population in this region is declining, so we need to build our enrollment in other ways, and these are conversations we need to have if we want to talk about sustainability and growth. So I know that there needs to be more conversations about off-campus and about enrollment growth and about campus climate. I mean, that has been discussed throughout this entire day, and we cannot stick our heads in the sand. We need to move forward, and we need to be focused on having a positive culture and a campus climate where everyone feels like they belong and can be successful here.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. Right
My
here.
name's Deidre. I'm the registrar. So I'm incredibly interested in enrollment numbers, enrollment predictions, where we're going to be. With Reconnect, we were all very optimistic, and it was a little dismal. So you had mentioned and alluded to in the staff session that you were an enrollment manager at, I think it was Radford. So what are your ideas for increasing enrollment here? Maybe some enrollment management strategies that you have that obviously wouldn't be anything proprietary for your program, but other than the workforce, because I think that we have a lot of, we need to go to the workforce, but we also need to go to the high schools to recruit. Because while the legislature has taken away the economic issue of giving essentially everyone a free education, sometimes things that are free aren't necessarily valued. So how would you recruit the non-workforce populations, and what are some strategies that you have to increase enrollment here?
Good question. It's Deidre, right? So the literature says that students in the K-12 level who walk on a college campus, that typically becomes the campus that they attend. So summer camps, arts initiatives, any types of initiatives that we can bring our K-12 students to campus. There's a lot of literature that supports early access and early awareness to a college campus makes a huge difference. So it's not just the high schools, it's getting younger kids thinking that they could actually be on a college campus one of these days. So I think I would be interested in seeing more of those opportunities, bringing more K-12 kids to this campus to enjoy the tremendous resources and programs that we have here to offer. I also know that one of the attractions to any academic program are the instructors in those programs, and instructors who have the types of connections with the community, with the jobs, with the students. And so all-star faculty, all-star instructors need to be the centerpiece of some of the recruitment for the specialty and niche programs. We can talk about it, but really it's the faculty members that a lot of times are what gets the students engaged and involved and excited about that specific program. So faculty, K-12 students, and then of course teachers, counselors in the K-12 system, principals and superintendents, building those relationships, networking with them, having them on our campus, or other ways just enhance our reputation in the community and also awareness of everything that we're doing. So those would be some things I would do.
Next question. Who's got one? Right over here. We'll bring the mic from this side.
Oh, sorry. I thought
Well, good
you-
afternoon. Hello. We're thrilled and pleased that you're with us here this day. We've been looking forward to meeting you and the other candidate tomorrow. My name is Dr. Keith Young. I am an ELPA graduate, ETSU, so I hold the program in high regard. I'm very grateful for the experiences I've had there. I'm glad you're being a leader and part of that. A couple of things, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question, but I would like to understand more about how you would characterize your leadership style in the context of, and I'll just say it this way, the predecessor to President King was an individual who had a leadership theory, okay, but when the people didn't necessarily come along, she blamed the people and not the theory. So what I would like to see is, how do you work with people in this region? Do you have some examples and some illustrations to help us understand how you work with the educational and the economic development folks here, and just how you exercise your leadership both in the immediate environment and then the larger region itself?
Okay, thank you. It's a good question. Well, I'm a known entity here. There are several people who have worked with me in a different kind of capacity, but a leadership capacity. I've supervised several, as you would know, dissertation committees of people in this room. I would say they would categorize, and I've encouraged everyone to ask them candidly, how is she? I have high expectations of myself and others. I push hard. I set high standards. And I am okay with disagreement. I'm also okay with people telling me it can't be done, but I'm not okay with sitting there. I mean, we have to have solutions. So I'm not necessarily into the blame game. Mistakes were made. We all know mistakes were made. It's time to move on from that. And so I'm not saying I wouldn't want to learn. I do think we learn and we put things in place so that that doesn't happen again, but we need to move into the future. And that's my style. My style is, you can talk about problems, that's great, but do you have solutions? Because that's where we need to move. So that is my nature. I'm also a person who thrives with autonomy. I'm not a micromanager. I love my work. I love what I do. And I think most people in higher education chose this career because it's a calling and they're passionate about what they do. And my sense is micromanaging really squelches that, the dignity of that passion. And so that is not, I don't like to work in that environment, and that's not how I lead. So I would trust the people to do what they do well. And that's who I am and how I lead. I think the third thing I would do, I'm big about taking informed risks. So I would look to the board with the metrics that the board is putting in place. They're creating this dashboard system so that I can see what we can see what Chat State's doing, what Ball State's doing, what other community colleges are doing, so that we can benchmark ourselves and make decisions strategically with data that shows, okay, this is what we could expect in the outcomes. And if we don't have those outcomes, maybe where did we miss it? So I use a lot of data in my decision making as well. I don't like yes people. I've been asked that question. A lot of people are a little bit afraid that because I know some of the cabinet members, they've been my students, that they're going to be somehow afraid to challenge me. And I have a business background. If you've come out of that discipline, we're not afraid of direct conversations, and we're not afraid of being challenged. That's how we have excellence in programs and services. So That's my nature, and that's who I am. And again, I encourage you to talk to the people who have worked with me to see if I'm lying. But no, seriously, I think that I am a known entity around here. So.
Spring, we got a mic coming. Well, if you don't mind, I would, because of people listening this way so they can hear it. So we'll get a mic to you real. Okay, we're going to do this one, and then while we're doing that, if you can bring the mic over. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. First, as president, what is your take on student interaction? Like, how would you interact with the students? Is that important to you?
Absolutely. Between the president and the student, yep. I've talked a lot about creating some advisory councils. I would be interested in a student advisory council, and I would be interested in different subpopulations of students to work with. Our veteran students, I've been so impressed with the Veteran Center here. Older adult students, working students, the 18 to 22-year-old population. So I'd be very interested in having some student group conversations and even a student advisory council to the president. Yeah, that's very important to me.
My second question, there's been a lot of talk of we need to move on, and I agree. I'm sure we all agree. What is your goal and how to get us to move on? How do you plan on helping us to do that?
Well, I know I need to listen. I know there needs to be a season of listening, because as I understand it today, I know we've grown, and I know there's been significant changes here, but I'm hearing that there's still some concerns. There's still some major issues, and people are nodding their heads. So I need to listen for a while to hear people's continued concerns about what happened in the past. However, I am confident, based on everything I've learned in the search process, that those issues are recovered. You all are in a great position now. The issues have been recovered. It is time to move forward. So it's one thing to know what happened and to learn from what happened, and then to assure people, okay, these are the things that have been put in place so that those things will never happen again. But I'm just one person. Culture and climate and morale is not up to one person. It's up to all of us. And so I think a collective effort at celebrating each other's successes, respecting one another's work, making sure that we're focused on the things that matter, keeping that kind of celebratory, positive approach would be something that I would want us to do.
Now, in the middle. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any fresh, new ideas you'll bring in for economic development?
I have some program ideas that I would be very interested in knowing if the regions and the different cities and the different faculty here, the expertise, based on just my experience growing up here. So for instance, we have wonderful golf courses. I've wondered to myself, should we have a golf course maintenance certificate program? We have hospitality, tourism, and management. Should we have a certificate program in that? So I have some ideas. Innovative ideas, sustainable farming. Should we have a program around sustainable farming? So yes, I do have ideas, but those types of programmatic ideas, they really do need to come from the areas that are interested and from the faculty who can deliver them. I'll be at the table. I'll be interested and excited about those things, but that needs to be a conversation that we all have. But yes, I do have some innovative ideas for future programs, future things. Also, the College of Older Adults in Abingdon. If you're not familiar with the College of Older Adults in Abingdon, it's at the Higher Education Center. I would love to replicate that model at the Kingsport Higher Education Center. If you're 50 years old or older, you pay something like $50 a semester, and you have unlimited access to non-credit education that is delivered by volunteer instructors, and it can be on any topic of any interest. And so it's a wonderful way to get older adults engaged with each other and with the community and learning from each other. And so that is another innovative idea. I would want to replicate the College for Older Adults at the Higher Ed Center in Kingsport. So.
Next question. Right up here. We'll get you a mic.
Hi, I'm Margaret Lester, the Director of Computer Services here at Northeast State. Are you familiar with the MEP project?
I'm not.
You know what Banner is,
Yes.
the Banner system. The TBR is engaged in a project where all of the community college Banner systems will be combined into a central system and supported centrally at TBR. So the way that the campus community interacts with IT is going to change drastically in the very near future. Instead of being locally supported, primarily they'll be supported by this central IT organization. And with any big change like that, there's a lot of uncertainty and concern. So I have a couple of questions. What concerns would you have as a college president about the impact of that on our campus? And secondly, how would you guide us through this change process?
One concern would be accessibility of data. So would I have to wait longer? Would we have to wait longer to get data back or reports back if we go from a localized to a centralized environment? I don't think so. From what I have heard, it would be more real time and a little more uniformity across the system, which is important. That would be what we are extracting is what everybody else is extracting, so that there are comparisons of apples to apples across the system. But that would be a question I would want to know about data and what the integrity of the data that's going into the system. I'm assuming entry would still stay local. Data entry would stay local, but data storage and retrieval would stay at the centralized office. But I would want to understand. These are the kinds of questions, I guess, that I would have. I would have questions like that. Concerns would be about usefulness of the change, intended and unintended consequences. I'd want to know those types of things from those of you who are working in that area. What you need, what you feel like you need to be successful with the change, any resistance. I've taught technology, so there's different strategies that we can use when we adopt new technologies. You can create allies, you can use carrots, you can use sticks, right? All sorts of different ways to adopt a new technology. But I would talk first to find out what the needs are and what some of the consequences that you're seeing would be with the change. I will say I'd love to focus on people and not paper. So I am supportive of streamlining a lot of the paper processes on campuses. I think those are unintended barriers to access. And so I'm all about people and not paper. And if we can eliminate as much barriers to entry and success for our students as we can, I would support that.
Got a question right over here.
Dr. Flora, Carson Wall, continuing the topic of change, given some of the statistics that you've illustrated in regards to declining high school enrollment in our region, declining population as a whole, and given your background studying educational leadership, coupled with the fact that our economy is in an upturn, how do you see our college being able to meet the demands of our community and also being able to see the upward trend in enrollment?
Good question. When I met with Jeff McCord earlier today, he talked about having PhDs in engineering in his programs, getting some of those practical hands-on skill sets. So I think sometimes we're a little short-sighted when we think, oh, someone has this degree, they're never going to come back and do something else. So he's got a hands-on machining certificate type of program that he's working with, and PhDs are pursuing those programs. So I don't think the market's saturated is what I'm saying. Absolutely not. And even though maybe the K-12 population is lower than what we had anticipated, we still have a significant gap in our achievement indicators of this part of the state. I mean, we still have plenty of people who do not yet have a degree or a certificate, a high quality certificate. So I think we continue doing what we do well, and we think about stackable credentials with the TCATs and with other types of credentials that we would build upon. So.
There was a hand in the middle, right here. Okay.
You had mentioned early on about wanting to become part of our family. And right now, a big discussion in Tennessee is outsourcing. What would you do to keep our family together, and how do you feel about outsourcing?
I've had this question in every single session, so I know it's an important question. James King, where is he? He stepped out. He made a decision that I would support. Everything that I have seen is that there's not a significant, so far, I have not seen anything that has demonstrated significant dollar savings for outsourcing. I have not personally read the proposal, and I don't know if there's been one for Northeast State. But we talk about workforce development, and this is a workforce. Northeast State is a workforce. And I am committed to the people who have given their lives, who have worked here, come in on Saturdays. I understand they came in on Saturdays and cut down trees. They do go above and beyond. They've given their lives to make this place beautiful. So I would need to read. I would need to make a good fiduciary decision. But at this point, I would not be at all an advocate for outsourcing based on what I've learned.
Next question. Well, while we're waiting, let me ask you another, if I may. Share with us 2 or 3 things that you have done that prepared you to be standing up here today.
Okay, good question. Well, I prepare leaders. I mean, that's my job for the Center for Community College Leadership. We get nominations from community college presidents for their rising stars. And my job is to prepare them to be vice presidents and presidents. And so I've been that coach, that person that prepares them. And I feel like that has prepared me. I have to say my experience at Virginia Tech was the most senior and significant experience that I've had as an administrator. And that was a trial by fire. And I was asked earlier about an experience where I thought maybe I don't have it or maybe I've been a failure. And that experience was something that I would watch my senior colleagues with what they were doing. And I thought, I don't have what it takes. But that experience at Virginia Tech was a powerful experience that prepared me for working with the media, for honoring the institution, for listening to the voices of dissent. And there were a lot of voices of dissent, and doing the right thing. And I would say maybe the third experience is being a mom. I think in leadership, you say things and you don't mean to say them that way, and they come across a certain way, and you have to think about your tone and your tenor, and did I communicate that well or did I not? You know, that whole the communication issue, we all know it doesn't matter. You can never over communicate, right, as a leader. And I think being a parent, you learn that sometimes the hard way. I didn't mean it that way, but they took it that way. And so that's an experience that I believe has prepared me as well to be a good communicator. So.
Question back here.
Based on your experiences at Virginia Tech, wow, that was loud. What are your priorities regarding campus safety?
Resources first. It takes resources to have a safe and secure campus. It takes a community that's willing to share concerns without fear of retaliation. It takes students who can be unique and eccentric and outside of the box without being afraid that they're going to somehow be profiled. And that's a delicate balance, you know. And I think it takes being aware of state policy, state laws, federal laws, staying on your A game with what the laws are related to responding to mental health issues, HIPAA, FERPA, those types of things. So it's a collective package of care for students in crisis, or faculty or staff, or even external members who would come on our campus. You know, that experience, I said earlier, made me a little hypervigilant about campus safety, and I am. And so I would be actively involved in those conversations and decisions. Faculty also need to feel safe, and I know that's a big, important thing.
We'll bring you the mic back. Just 1 second.
Sorry for making you run back here, Rayma. By the way, my name's Jim. I work at Enrollment. I didn't introduce myself the last time. Big part of the president's job is fundraising. Could you tell us a little bit more about any experience you've had with fundraising and any possible capital campaigns or anything that you have, you know, been the lead person in terms of fundraising funds to make it happen?
Jim, that is an area that I knew I needed development in. So when Dr. Noland, in his foresight, he's a member of the American Council of Education, and he created a presidential fellowship program at East Tennessee State University that's very similar to the ACE fellowship program, that you would stay local at East Tennessee State instead of going to another institution. And when he interviewed me for that program, he asked me what experiences I wanted, and I said, fundraising and development, because I knew that was my biggest weakness. At Virginia Tech, I never, they call make the ask, but I was part of I staffed the strategic plan midterm review that actually infused the brand new medical school, which was the only public-private partnership for a new medical school in the nation that was a public and private partnership, Virginia Tech Carilion there in Roanoke. I staffed that. I also staffed the Art Strategic Planning Committee, which was from ground up. So no, I did not make the ask, but I was part of those conversations, part of the MOU. I read the MOUs, those types of things. In the Center for Community College Leadership, the Community Colleges of Appalachia, which is an association, has given a scholarship to the center, to ETSU, for students in our program. So I was part of that. So I would say that I have the experience being a fly on the wall, being part of the conversations. I know that I will lean on the expertise of the more seasoned colleagues here for those make the ask types of conversations in the beginning. And then I'll be there, but I'll have a learning curve, and I'm just honest about that. But it's nothing I'm not willing to learn and I know needs to be done. So.
Next question.
We have a remote question.
Okay. This is from Bridget Courtney. Speaking of campus safety, how do you feel eliminating parking passes has affected safety on our campus? We now have no way of knowing who is a student and who is not.
Well, we're a public institution. So I don't want to live in a police state. I mean, I like that members of the public can come onto this campus at any time. I trust campus safety to keep us safe. So I'm not sure I'm answering that question, but I'm very open to members of the public coming onto our campus and not knowing whether they're a student or not. I think that's what a community college exists for sometimes. So if it's a punitive measure of eliminating a parking pass because the student has presented a threat, I'm not sure, based on my knowledge, a parking pass is going to keep somebody who's a threat off the campus. So that would be my response.
Next question. Well, while we're waiting, I'll toss you another one. Okay. And this came from somebody here who is part of Northeast, says, we're not just in the business of transforming lives, we're in the business of transforming this region. Mm-hmm. What kind of transformation would you see happening up here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am from this region, and I am so passionate about the opioid epidemic. I think that we have a big challenge ahead of us and a lot of people working on that. So the health of the people in our region, the health of the children. We know adverse childhood experiences for kids in our region are increasing. And I think this college, I think our work in the college with what we're doing in our different programs, in the way that we are developing people to be more active and engaged citizens can only change. We know that education is correlated, positively correlated to health indicators. We know education is positively correlated to economic indicators. And so we're in the front lines, we get to do that. And so those are the things that I would want Northeast State to continue to watch. You know, it's easy to get bogged down in numbers and enrollments and programs, but let's work together to look at the economic indicators, the health indicators, the wellness indicators of our region so that we're all working at this together. So, yeah.
Have another one? We have two. Okay. This is from Cindy Perry. How do you view the technical and academic segments of the community college mission? What relationship should they have within the community college, and how do you balance the needs of these programs?
Well, when I teach in Nashville for the Center for Community College Leadership with the students who are from community colleges all across the state, I make them do a point-counterpoint debate, and I have them talk about, is college ready and career ready? Is it the same thing or is it different? And they have to debate that. are there differences? Are there really differences, or are there not differences between the technical and the university parallel programs? And we normally end up seeing there are so many more similarities than there are differences. The clock hour to credit hour transfer and articulations are something that we need to talk about. The credentialing of faculty between the technical colleges and the community colleges, faculty shortages in both are things that we need to talk about. I think this divide is over exaggerated in many regards. I think the technology programs want critical thinkers, which the humanities and the arts and literature and a lot of those programs help create. And of course, the programs in the arts and the humanities and the university parallel, they want students who can not just think, but students who can do, and the technology programs feed into that. So I see it as less of a divide than a lot of people do, I think. And I've heard today about some exciting collaborations between the technology and the university parallel programs, and I think you're on to some good things there. I'd want to see more of that. So.
And we got another one online, and this is from Alexandria Craft. Adjunct pay is low at Northeast State Community College compared to other institutions. As an adjunct instructor, I make roughly $350 a month per course. And considering my time, that's not a lot. So is adjunct pay a concern that you would have?
Well, not just adjunct pay, because when I was doing my research for this forum, it looked like the last compensation study was undertaken in 2013. So I would want to go ahead and charge a new committee to do a compensation study to benchmark and to understand what are the compensation concerns here, not just for adjuncts, but for everyone, and then make some recommendations that we could then move forward with. When we talk about a goal of excellence in programs and services, you cannot recruit and retain high quality faculty and staff if you don't compensate well. And so that is an issue, it's a concern, and I would charge a committee to replicate that study that was conducted in 2013 to make recommendations for moving forward.
Who else has a question?
Fran.
Can we got a mic coming this way? Thank you.
Frances Canedo, Dean of Humanities. Dr. Flora, I want to emphasize the question that Alexandria Craft did. It has been 20 years since we have evaluated adjunct pay. Our faculty make about $1,600 per class. These are people that have doctoral programs. These are people with master's degrees that are teaching our students. And we don't pay for transportation for them to go to other campuses. We do not pay for them. They do not have the benefits that we have in healthcare or transportation or even the ability to take a class for free like full-time faculty does. So let me emphasize again that adjunct faculty pay is very important to us.
Thank you. Dean Canedo, I echo that. I think it's important, and they are, adjunct faculty are tremendous contributors. We know that to the educational mission of the community college. And so we do need to look at compensation. We also need to look at the intangibles, things like access to the gym when they are here. Other ways of creating opportunities where they're part of the family and they feel like they're part of the family. But I know we should look at that. Thank you.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. Yep, we're going to bring the mic back to you.
That's okay.
All my sons and stepsons, they've all played sports in college, and we live and breathe sports. I mean, and they've all got their education too with it, but they play college sports. But do you foresee anything here in the sports side, or I just, I had to throw that out there.
Well, Matt Delosier is going to look away. I was a college athlete. I was a high school athlete. I believe sports are an important vehicle for student success and engagement, as well as community success and support. And I'm also aware that Northeast State is one of the few colleges in the state that have sports, So that is something that Matt Delosier and I have talked about before. And I've challenged him to give me some reasons why we should or why we shouldn't have sports at Northeast State. I think as we're seeing the promise students coming in and that population and growing, the 18 to 22-year-old population in particular, I think that is something we want to talk about. I would get very excited about that, but again, I wouldn't make any kind of commitments. I mean, that's a resource commitment that would need to be carefully considered. Yeah.
We're getting close to the end, so if you've been holding on to that question, you got just a few more minutes to go. Who's got one? Right here in the middle.
The topic of sports made me think about the theater department here. We have this fabulous theater, and I wondered how you feel about supporting the arts and increasing maybe the theater budget here. That would get more people on campus, and we could also reach out to younger students if we had more support for the theater and arts programs.
Well, I was picked to staff the Arts Strategic Plan at Virginia Tech, so I am passionate about the arts. Taking my kids, they've seen 4 Broadway shows, so I'm very passionate about the arts, Louise. I also think that the K-12 educational aspect using theater is a powerful tool. So I've watched what the Roanoke Theater has done, for instance, with drug abuse, and they had child actors, teenage actors, some people are shaking their head, who developed a play, presented a play on drug abuse. And so it was from teenagers delivered to K-12 teenagers. And so I think the arts are an important part of the fabric of the community, of the college community, and particularly for educating the K-12 community in some of these areas that we've talked about, moving the indicators for health and wellness. I want to go back to sports. Matt Waters is a student, well, he's a graduate now, but he is at Roane State. And he conducted his dissertation research on high impact practices at community colleges. And what he found was that athletics, participation in athletics was significantly related to student success. So you cannot dismiss the fact, I just want to assure people that I would not present sports in any way to take away from another program if we did do sports, or in any way that would negatively affect student success. And in fact, it's because I was Matt's dissertation chair or on his committee that I started thinking about sports as a high impact practice. And wondering, which is when we had that conversation, why isn't Northeast State doing more in this area if it is indeed moving the needle on student success and graduation? So.
And is it okay to put a plug in for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which I understand is getting ready to open pretty soon?
Yes,
you got
thank you. Thank you.
You've been posed, in at least the past couple of years, with 2 very important questions in your life. One, as a parent, to send your child to a college. As an educator, you chose Northeast State. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know why. And I would also like to know, as someone who has a love for education, what would lead you away from being a faculty member or an educator into administration?
Good question. I think some of the best teaching and learning happens on a community college campus. So I've always said that. Both of my kids are doing community colleges for pragmatic reasons and also practical reasons. Faith was interested in a 4-year institution and then chose Northeast State because Tennessee Promise is a valuable policy lever to help her think about, okay, now where will I transfer to after attending Northeast State? And we knew that Northeast State would prepare her with the university parallel program to be successful for transfer. Northeast State has a very high reputation for transfer student success, by the way. I know you all know this, but, and she is being very well prepared for transfer student success. So that was her decision that she made, that I supported. My son went to help start a church in Wilmington, and so he and a group of his friends all decided to go to Cape Fear to get their degrees at the associate's level, and then they'll transfer to UNCW. So again, those were both of my kids' decisions that I supported, and I think it's a brilliant decision on both of their parts, and they both have had great experiences. Why would I leave what I do? I love what I do. I absolutely get to work with the cream of the crop across the state. I get people who presidents of community colleges have selected as all-stars to be in my program. I want to make a difference here. I believe I have the skill set and the personality to care for us to move forward. I believe that I would be a good person to lobby and articulate the needs of the college to the region and to other parts of the state. I'm passionate about this region. I'm passionate about higher education and what it's done for me. So I was interested in this position because I was ready to do those things. I'm in a position personally to be able to give more energy and effort, you know, be an empty nester. So I was ready for the move. I was ready for the change. So.
Oh, right here. This is our last question, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes.
I'm Robin Bird. I'm in Granite County in the finance office. And I'm just curious, there's a lot of good programs on this campus, and we only have a limited budget. How do you make the decisions of who gets what when there's so many great programs and we just have that small amount of money?
Yeah. I was on the academic portfolio review team at East Tennessee State where we looked at that. We looked at enrollments, we looked at programs, we looked at demand and projections. I would do a similar thing where I would look at the enrollment trends. I would look at the state level projections. THEC provides a really great report on economic and future projections for need and demand areas. I think that's something to consider. I think that it needs to be an open conversation. I right now don't know where the resources are going, right? So I would need to sit down and study and take some time. I would not make any premature decisions about resources without knowing first where things are going. We all know that some programs cost more than others. That's just how it is in higher education. And so we have to be able to work together to make sure that all of the programs that we're doing are excellent. And that's just how it is. And so making sure that people are understanding that and that we are supporting programs the way they need to be supported for students to have the success outcomes that they need on their placement exams, on their licensure exams, on some of those tests that they must take. So that's how I would go about it, is first looking to see where the resources go and then making a strategic decision based on demand and enrollments.
Well, Dr. Flora, thank you for your answers to our questions. And let me leave you a couple minutes here to share any final thoughts you'd like to not only give us, but also those who will be watching you via video.
Okay. I just want to thank you. I really did not think that I would make it to this level. So it is such an honor to have made it to be a finalist here, truly. And I know so many of you, and I know that this is going to be a new season, a new era for the college. And I just want to encourage you all that I have heard so many good things about what's happening here today. You should be so proud of the Honors Institute and so proud of the Veterans Center and so proud of everything that you're doing. And my experience in this process has shown me how much the community and the region cares about this college. I know you know that, but there is so much concern and care for this college, and I just wanted to say thank you. And at the end of the day, a president is one person. I've said this before. It's just one person who's coming into your family. You're really what makes this family. You really are. And so I know the next person's going to be successful. With the family that you all have created. And I know you've been through a hard time, but I'm excited by what I've heard today. I really am. So thank you so much for your hospitality. It's been great being here. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And as we get ready to conclude, let me remind you, there is an online survey. And if you go to the TBR website, you will find it. The cutoff date for responding is on Friday, October 26th, and you can tell this came from Nashville. They put in Central Time. It is 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central. A lot of us here live in Eastern Time, even in Chattanooga. But so please take the time to do that. You can also see the video again, and if there are colleagues or other people in the community that you would like to make sure they know about, please share with them to go to the website, look at the video, and then fill out that online submission. For Dr. Flora Tidings, I almost ran into problems with the Flora, I'm sorry. But with Dr. Flora Tidings, the Chancellor, it'll be very important for her to get your all's input and your reaction. So please do that. And again, let me thank you all for being here today, for your questions, and thank you, Dr. Flora, for being interested in Northeast State Community College. Thank you.
Thank you.